Ask an American how they're doing, and you'll likely hear one word: busy. It's a strange little badge of honor, isn't it? It means you're useful, you're important, you're relevant. To slow down is to fall behind. But was it always like this? For most of human history, life wasn't a race against the clock. Time was something you lived in, not something you optimized. So, what changed? After World War II, America became the engine of global capitalism. Speed became the strategy. Faster factories, faster growth, faster everything. The clock replaced the sun, and the schedule replaced our instincts. Corporations weren't just making products, they were creating a new rhythm for life, dictated by deadlines and quarterly earnings. Time itself became money. Then came the tech revolution. Computers, the internet, smartphones. Each one promised to save us time, but somehow they did the exact opposite. They didn't free us, they multiplied our expectations. Emails demanded instant replies, laptops turned our homes into offices, and smartphones completely erased the line between work and life. By the early 2020s, Americans weren't just working faster, we were living inside our work. We now work more hours than almost any other advanced economy. We have no guaranteed paid vacation, no national paid family leave, no legal limit on weekly hours. Speed isn't a choice anymore, it's a requirement. For decades, we were sold a simple story: work harder, move faster, and your life will get better. And for a while, it worked. Between the 40s and the 70s, as productivity went up, so did wages. But then, that connection snapped. Since the late 70s, our productivity has kept climbing, but our wages, adjusted for inflation, have flatlined. We accelerated. We took on side hustles. We stayed connected 24/7, but the payoff vanished. We were running faster than ever, but feeling poorer and more stressed. This is the exact moment where the idea of slow living stopped being a cute aesthetic and started being a necessary reaction. In 2019, the World Health Organization officially recognized burnout as a result of chronic workplace stress. It's not a personal weakness, it's a structural problem. By 2024, the data was undeniable. The American Psychological Association found that most of us are dealing with work-related stress, and nearly half feel emotionally exhausted most days. It's not just high-pressure jobs anymore. It's teachers, nurses, gig drivers, and even retirees who have to go back to work. Speed isn't motivating us, it's breaking us down. Our workday doesn't end. It just dissolves into our personal life. Emails at midnight, notifications during dinner. Our brains weren't built for this constant state of alert. Neuroscience shows this endless task switching damages our attention, memory, and emotional control. Sociologists call this time poverty, having a job but having no time for yourself. Many Americans now feel more starved for time than for money. Slowing down isn't a rebellion. It's a response to pure exhaustion. This culture of speed is fueled by what some call the dopamine economy. Social media, news cycles, gig apps, they all run on urgency because urgency drives engagement, and engagement drives profit. A person who pauses, who thinks, who logs off, that person is less profitable. This is why choosing to slow down feels so countercultural. It's a quiet resistance to being constantly optimized and monetized. But let's be honest, who really gets to slow down? For some, it's a conscious choice: remote work, sabbaticals, moving to the country. For many others, slowness is forced upon them by layoffs or illness. That's not freedom. And yet, something is shifting. We're seeing people leave big, expensive cities for smaller towns, not just for cheaper living, but to reclaim their time, to escape the commute, to reduce the pressure, to just breathe. This isn't just a trend, it's a signal that more and more of us are realizing that a life measured only by its speed might not be a life worth living at all. There are no marches, no slogans, no clear leaders, just choices. People are declining promotions that demand constant availability. Families are downsizing. Older workers are retiring earlier despite the financial trade-offs. And younger workers are rejecting hustle culture entirely. You might not see it on the news, but a quiet resistance is taking shape across America. Economists call it a legitimacy crisis, that moment when people stop believing that their effort will be rewarded fairly. In that moment, speed loses its moral authority, and slowing down becomes a form of dissent. But this isn't a story about candles, minimalism, or fancy morning routines. This is a story about an economy that outran the very people inside it. It's about a nation built on speed that is now questioning whether speed still serves it. It's about a growing realization among millions of Americans. If life is moving faster every year, but feeling worse, then maybe the problem isn't how slow we are, it's how fast everything else has become. For decades, we were all sold a promise that sounded almost sacred. Work harder, and life will reward you. Put in the hours, stay late, answer that email, take the extra shift. Success wasn't luck, it was discipline, it was sacrifice, it was speed. This belief became the hustle myth, and it shaped an entire national identity. Back in the late 20th century, this myth still held some truth. Economic mobility was real. One income could often support a household. Productivity gains actually reached workers' paychecks. The ladder existed, and people could climb it. But myths become dangerous when reality changes and the story doesn't. By the early 2000s, the foundation of the hustle myth started to crumble. Jobs became less stable, benefits thinned out, and pensions disappeared. Healthcare costs surged, housing prices detached from wages, and education debt exploded. Yet the message didn't change. We were told that if we were struggling, we simply weren't trying hard enough. Work faster, work more, optimize yourself. According to the Federal Reserve's own survey in 2024, a significant portion of Americans reported working more hours than a decade ago while feeling less financially secure. The hustle didn't disappear, the payoff did. This is when speed stopped being a path to progress and became a trap. Traditional economics always focuses on income, how much we earn, save, and spend. But a growing body of research now points to a different crisis: time poverty. Time poverty isn't about being lazy or bad at planning. It's the condition of having so little discretionary time that basic human needs like rest, relationships, and even just quiet reflection are consistently sacrificed. Data from the American Time Use Survey shows that Americans spend more time working and commuting combined than people in almost any other developed nation. At the same time, we spend less time resting than Europeans and less time socializing than previous generations of Americans. And this matters because you can't earn more hours in a day. Psychologists note that chronic time scarcity produces stress responses similar to financial insecurity. In simple terms, Americans aren't just tired, we're time-starved. Slow living, in this context, isn't about doing nothing. It's about reclaiming agency over our time. Now, many countries face burnout, but America experiences it differently. Unlike most advanced economies, the United States has no federal guarantee of paid vacation, no mandated paid parental leave, and limited protections around scheduling and after-hours availability. In Germany, workers are legally protected from work emails after hours. In France, the right to disconnect is law. In America, constant availability remains a cultural expectation. Our nation's frontier mentality plays a role. Here, that belief that effort conquers all and rest must be earned, not required. This mindset produced incredible innovation. It also produced incredible burnout. By 2025, studies from the OECD show that while Americans work longer hours, we don't report higher life satisfaction than our peers in slower-paced economies. In many cases, we report less. Speed didn't buy happiness. It consumed it. So, if you've been feeling this pressure, you're not alone. This is a conversation we need to have. You might think the slow living movement is just for millennials and Gen Z, but the story is much deeper. Older Americans are feeling the pressure to data from AARP and the Federal Reserve shows that more and more people over 50 expect to work longer, not because they want to, but because they have to. They're worried about job security, healthcare costs, and whether they'll ever be able to retire. At the same time, younger Americans are stepping back, not because they don't want to work, but because they've lost faith that hard work guarantees stability. This isn't a clash of values between generations. It's a clash of belief. Older generations were taught that if you put in the effort, you'll be rewarded. Younger generations look at the system and see that the rules have changed. And in this shared anxiety, slow living has become a common ground, a quiet agreement that just going faster won't unfix a system that speed helped break. This constant rush isn't just changing how we work, it's changing how we feel. Therapists are seeing more cases of anhedonia, that's the inability to feel pleasure, in people who are clinically depressed, just chronically overworked. When your entire life is a to-do list, joy starts to feel like a waste of time. Family dinners are rushed, conversations are cut short. We're physically present, but mentally somewhere else. Sociologists call this an erosion of meaning. Life becomes all function, no feeling. Slow living isn't about going back to the past. It's about bringing emotion and connection back into our daily lives. So if slow living is the answer, why isn't everyone doing it? Because in America, slowing down feels incredibly risky. Your health insurance is tied to your job. Your home is tied to your income. Your retirement depends on you never stopping. One wrong move, one period of rest, and everything could fall apart. This fear isn't irrational. Economic studies show that when Americans lose income, their well-being plummets far more than in countries with better social safety nets. In this system, speed feels like a shield. Constant motion feels like security. Slow living forces us to ask a terrifying question. What if the system is designed to punish rest? But even with all the risks, a change is happening. Americans are starting to redefine success. It's no longer about having the most stuff, but about having more time. It's not about climbing the ladder at all costs, but about having more control over your own life. This isn't giving up. It's a calculated decision, a realization that the price of the old dream has become too high. Slow living isn't an escape from responsibility. It's a bold renegotiation of what we owe to our jobs, to our families, and most importantly, to ourselves. And this renegotiation is redrawing the map of America. Slow living isn't happening everywhere at once. It's sprouting in specific places, driven by a quiet exhaustion. Census and IRS data show a clear trend. People are leaving the big, expensive, fast-paced cities. This isn't a retreat from work. It's a search for balance. Places like New York and San Francisco are still powerhouses, but living there means long commutes, sky-high rents, and a culture that demands every ounce of your energy. There's no room to breathe, so people are moving. They're heading to mid-sized cities and towns like Madison, Knoxville, Boise, and Fayetteville, places where life moves at a more human pace. Real estate data confirms it. For people between 30 and 55, quality of life and affordability are now more important than salary when deciding where to live. That's a massive shift. For generations, we chased opportunity wherever it led. Now, we're chasing sustainability, life that we can actually live, not just survive. This movement is just getting started, and it's changing the very definition of the American dream. Have you ever felt like you're running on a treadmill that just keeps getting faster? You're not alone. Across America, a quiet revolution is taking place. It's not about quitting your job or escaping society. It's about something much deeper, reclaiming your life. This is the story of slow living. For decades, the American dream meant chasing opportunity, no matter the cost. It meant flocking to big cities like New York, San Francisco, and Los Angeles. These economic engines promised success, but they demanded a heavy price, long commutes, sky-high rents, and a culture of constant competition. The result, a quiet epidemic of burnout. But now, the map is changing. Recent data from the Census Bureau and real estate sites like Zillow show a historic shift. Americans are leaving these high-speed hubs and moving to smaller cities and towns, places like Madison, Knoxville, and Boise. Why? For the first time, affordability and quality of life are outranking salary as the top reasons for relocation. People aren't just chasing bigger paychecks anymore. They're chasing sustainability for their lives. Of course, none of this would be possible without one massive structural change: remote work. Before 2020, our jobs dictated where we lived. After 2020, we started choosing our location to dictate how we live. Even with many companies calling people back to the office, the legacy of that freedom remains. We got a taste of what life could be like without a soul-crushing commute. The average American gained back nearly 5 hours a week. That's time we started using to cook, to walk, to connect with our families. We tasted a slower pace, and we're not willing to give it up. This shift is also a quiet revolt against the corporate obsession with productivity metrics. We're all drowning in emails, meetings, and notifications. We feel busy, but are we actually effective? A recent Harvard Business Review analysis found that this constant digital noise actually reduces deep, meaningful work. Slow living isn't about rejecting productivity. It's about redefining it. It's about doing fewer things, but doing them better. It's about measuring success by the real value we create, not just the number of tasks we check off a list. And when we slow down our lives, we also slow down our consumption. When you're exhausted, you reach for convenience, fast food, delivery services, disposable everything. But when you have more time, you make more intentional choices. You might cook a meal instead of ordering in, repair something instead of replacing it, or visit a local farmer's market instead of a giant supermarket. This isn't about being cheap. It's about finding more value and meaning in what you own and what you do. As we slow down, our connection to our local communities gets stronger. We start recognizing faces at the local coffee shop. We go to community events, and we rebuild the social trust that gets lost in the anonymity of a fast-paced world. But this shift isn't without resistance. Slowing down can feel uncomfortable. We've been trained to believe that unstructured time is wasted time. Psychologists say that when we slow down, we're finally forced to face the emotions we've been running from. It's an adjustment, but it's a necessary one. It requires us to learn how to define our worth beyond our output. Ultimately, the slow living movement asks a fundamental question. What is life for, if not to be lived? What is work for, if not to support that life? It challenges the idea that endless growth and constant acceleration are the only paths forward. And that's why this isn't just a trend, it's a reckoning. It's a sign that people are ready to build a life that is not just successful, but meaningful. What do you think? Is slow living the future, or just a fantasy? Ever dreamed of slowing down, trading the daily grind for a more intentional, meaningful life? It's a beautiful idea, isn't it? But for millions of us, it feels like a fantasy. Not because we don't want it, but because money gets in the way. The modern economy seems designed to punish anyone who tries to hit the brakes. Think about it. Housing, healthcare, student loans, these bills don't slow down when you do. They just keep coming, faster and faster. The Federal Reserve recently revealed a startling fact. Nearly 63% of Americans can't cover a surprise $1,000 expense. This isn't about being bad with money. It's about being trapped in a system where constant income is the only way to stay afloat. When just surviving requires you to keep running, slowing down feels like a dangerous luxury. Let's talk about debt. It's not just a financial burden, it's a tax on your time. Student loans, credit card bills, car payments, they all steal your future. They lock up tomorrow's time before you've even lived it. The average student loan takes over 20 years to pay off. That's 2 decades of your career choices being dictated by a payment schedule, not by your passions. Mortgages last 30 years. Even small purchases are now broken into future payments. Debt forces you to keep moving, to keep earning, just to stay solvent. Escaping it requires time, the very thing debt takes from you. It's a frustrating paradox. Then there's healthcare, perhaps the biggest force keeping us on the hamster wheel. In America, our health insurance is usually tied to our job. Lose your job, and you could lose your healthcare. With family premiums soaring past $24,000 a year, the stakes are terrifyingly high. We stay in jobs we hate, work hours that burn us out, all because the fear of a medical catastrophe is real. How can you embrace a slow lifestyle when getting sick could mean financial ruin? It's a loop of fear-based productivity. And what about the finish line? That promised land of retirement. For many, it's becoming a mirage. Pensions are nearly extinct, and Social Security's future feels uncertain. The reality is, nearly half of Americans nearing retirement age have less than $100,000 saved. That's simply not enough. So, people are working longer, not because they want to, but because they have to. How can you slow down when the financial future never feels secure? The finish line just keeps moving further away. You might hear critics say, just earn less, consume less. But that advice ignores the harsh reality for most people. For decades, wages haven't kept up with the soaring costs of living. For many, cutting back on income isn't a simple choice. It means losing access to housing, insurance, or childcare. It's not a safe option. But even with all these barriers, a quiet movement is growing. Financial slow living. This isn't about quitting work. It's about redesigning your life to need less. People are downsizing their homes, moving to more affordable areas, and getting serious about avoiding debt. It's a shift from chasing status to prioritizing flexibility. From needing a higher income to wanting lower fixed costs. It's about creating financial margin so you have the freedom to breathe. Of course, this option isn't available to everyone equally. A remote office worker has more flexibility to redesign their life than an hourly service worker tied to a strict schedule. If slow living is only for the privileged, it fails. That's why bigger conversations about things like a shorter work week, universal healthcare, and debt relief are so important. They aren't just political ideas. They're the foundation for a society that values well-being over burnout. Our economy thrives on speed, on constant growth and consumption. But what's the hidden cost of never stopping? Psychologists warn that chronic stress and urgency literally rewire our brains, damaging our memory, creativity, and even our empathy. A society that never slows down loses its depth, its humanity. So people are starting to ask a quiet but powerful question. How much is enough? Enough money? Enough work? Enough stuff? Slow living isn't about being lazy or irresponsible. It's about reclaiming our lives. It's about choosing to do what truly matters and refusing to sacrifice our humanity for a system that never stops demanding more. Ever feel like you're living on a deadline, even at home? It's not just you. The constant rush of modern life isn't staying at the office. It's invading our homes, turning our families into tiny, stressed-out corporations. We're living by schedules, not building relationships. Our calendars are full, but our conversations are empty. Notifications have replaced genuine presence. Parents are bouncing between jobs, commutes, errands, and screens. Our kids see us, but they know we're not really there. The American Time Use Survey confirmed it this year. Despite working just as much, parents are spending less uninterrupted time with their children than they did 2 decades ago. The time is there, but it's broken into 1,000 tiny, distracted pieces. Slow living isn't about doing less. It's about piecing that time back together. It argues that family life isn't something to squeeze in. It is the main event. And our kids are learning this frantic pace from day one. Overscheduled childhoods are the new normal. We pile on academic pressure, stack extracurriculars, and hand them screens, all while constantly measuring their performance. It's no surprise that psychologists are seeing a spike in anxiety, attention disorders, and pure emotional exhaustion in children and teens. The CDC recently confirmed that youth anxiety and depression are still rising. This makes you wonder, are we raising resilient, happy humans, or just really efficient future employees? Slow living dares to reframe childhood not as a race to productivity, but as a time for presence, curiosity, and rest. It's not just our kids. Our relationships are feeling the strain, too. Dating apps promise connection at hyperspeed, but often just lead to burnout. Long-term partners are too exhausted to truly connect. Researchers are finding that it's not just big fights that kill relationships. It's the slow, silent erosion caused by chronic stress and a simple lack of shared, unstructured time. Slow living brings back the simple rituals: a meal without phones, an evening with no agenda, a conversation where you're actually listening. It's not a magic fix, but it offers the one thing every relationship needs: attention. Technology promised to make our lives easier, but instead, it just made them faster. Our smartphones have become a relentless fire hose of work, news, social media, and entertainment. There's no off switch, no downtime, just endless scrolling. Recent studies show the average adult is spending over 7 hours a day on screens, often in tiny, fragmented bursts. This constant stream of information shatters our focus and kills boredom, which is actually where creativity is born. Slow living isn't about throwing away your phone. It's about taming it, setting screen limits, turning off notifications, having device-free hours. These aren't nostalgic fantasies. They're cognitive survival strategies in the digital age. When we're all moving this fast, our communities start to fray. When time is the scarcest resource, relationships become transactional. Neighbors become strangers. We lose that sense of belonging. Slow living pulls our focus back to what's right in front of us: local shops, local food, and local relationships. It's been shown that communities with strong local ties report higher life satisfaction, even with less money. A sense of belonging actually slows down our perception of time. But the most radical part of slow living is the mental shift. It's about changing how we measure our own worth, moving from achievement to meaning, from obsessing about the future to engaging with the present. This is tough. We've been conditioned our whole lives to believe our value comes from our output. Slow living asks us to measure our lives by experience. This isn't laziness. It's a profound act of discernment. Let's be clear. This isn't about retreating from the world. It's a form of resistance. Resistance to a system that drains our time and energy without restoring our spirit. Slow living is for the exhausted, not the idle. It's for everyone who did everything they were supposed to do and still felt empty. For the families who feel like time is slipping through their fingers like sand. The risk of not slowing down is all around us: burnout, loneliness, and a society-wide mental health crisis. A society that never rests will eventually break. The good news is, a change is already starting. We see it in experiments with shorter work weeks, the normalization of remote work, and a growing focus on mental health. These aren't just trends, they are necessary corrections. The real question isn't asterisk. If asterisk, we can slow down, but whether we'll choose to do it intentionally or be forced to by a collective collapse. To live slowly isn't to stop moving. It's to move with purpose. It's about reclaiming authorship of your own time. Our world was built on speed, but speed without direction is just exhaustion. Slow living offers something truly radical: the permission to simply be human. And maybe that's not a luxury, but a necessity for our survival. Thanks for watching.